A tip from a worker at a pawn shop in South Dakota led to the arrest of fugitive FLDS leader Lyle Jeffs, who'd been on the run for nearly a year for a food stamp fraud case. The clerk says Jeffs was acting strange while trying to sell 2 Leatherman tools and tried a trick when he handed over his ID.
Said his first name was Jeffs. His last name was Steed. Jeffs Lyle Steed, he said his name was. So that was Lyle's master plan to avoid capture, was telling that that's my first name is my last name, I guess.
The employee looked Jeffs on the internet, looked him up, and discovered that he was wanted by the FBI. Lyle Jeffs is now on his way back to Utah and could face additional charges. New Specialist Ladd Egan is now with us with a look at where FLDS leadership stands right now. Ladd?
Yeah, Deanie, Lyle Jeffs is the younger brother of FLDS leader Warren Jeffs, who you'll remember also spent time on the run. But while Warren was arrested with tens of thousands of dollars in cash, Lyle looks to have been running out of resources, selling those 2 Leatherman tools for just $37.
I couldn't believe that he got away in the first place.
Lifelong Colorado City resident Ross Chatwin says he was pleased to hear about the arrest of FLDS Bishop Lyle Jeffs.
I believe that Lyle was just as bad or worse than Warren was about destroying people's lives.
Now he wonders who will assume the day-to-day leadership over FLDS followers.
You'll know who the bad people are because they're going to step up to the plate here and say, hear me, listen to me, I'm the next one here, so you do what I tell you to.
Jeffs made his first court appearance today in South Dakota. Police took him into custody after he used a restroom Wednesday evening at a marina campsite near Yankton, which is 400 miles east of Pringles, South Dakota, where there's an FLDS compound. Investigators say he was living out of his truck displaying Utah license plates.
His level of support and his means of continuing his flight were limited.
The FBI says it was only a matter of time before they caught up with Jeffs, who's accused in an intricate food stamp fraud scheme and escaped custody last June by removing his GPS monitor.
He may not have been in physical custody from that moment that he fled almost a year ago till last night, but he spent that whole time, I'm sure, looking over his shoulder, wondering about every police officer he saw, every highway patrolman, and what person would eventually give him up.
In early 2016, court documents warned that he was a flight risk because of a sophisticated FLDS system to hide leaders. Prosecutors wrote that to facilitate undetected travel, people use vehicles leased or owned by others and use aliases, disguises, and false identification documents.
We look poorly upon people who assist fugitives.
Prosecutors say Jeffs faces additional felony charges for fleeing custody and also want to know about any help he received.
We've got a lot of work to do to figure out where he's been and who has been assisting him, if anyone.
The FBI expects Lyle Jeffs to be back here in Utah in just the next few days. Of the 11 people originally indicted in the case, he's the only one that still faces charges. And Deanie, as for those employees at the pawn shop, they could be entitled to a $50,000 reward from the FBI. I asked the FBI about that today. They say they're still looking into it.
Well, he was observant, and he took the time to look it up and make the call. So that'll be interesting. Thanks, Ladd.
But Dan